So the supplies you'll need are gloves. They can just be any old gloves from around the house. Paint, obviously. We got primer, and then like 4 different colors we're going to use for camouflage. We're using this camouflage Rust-Oleum paint. I believe that's how you pronounce it. We have painter's tape, and then we have this stencil. I used stencil material. They have special like plastic material you can use to make stencils. But for depending on what kind of paint job you're doing, you can also just use regular paper as well. Now, depending on the quality of paint job you're doing, you can get like various materials like airbrush painters and things like that to do a much higher quality paint job. But this would be what you want to do if you're trying to do it on a budget. And I've found that doing it this way gives it more of a look like a soldier painted it, which is a style I tend to like on my airsoft guns. So for me, it works out good. And those are the supplies you need. So there's different patterns and styles you could go with. For example, you could go with digital or ACU. You can go with, say, multicam. You could go with, say, snakeskin by using netting. You go with something more like this. You can also go with, say, tiger stripes. Like this is based on Vietnam tiger stripes, not actual tiger stripes. And there's all different patterns for based on what style you want to go with. Most of these will use stencil paper or just regular paper. Regular paper will wear out quicker, but if it's like a one-time use, then it's no big deal. For something like snakeskin, using netting is the best way to go. It's just a lot easier than cutting out all the little circles yourself. The only thing to be aware of with netting is it stiffens up after so many paint jobs, as you see here. If you're good about washing them out quickly, you can loosen them up to some degree, but depending on the quality of paint you're using, it'll still most likely harden over time. And with most patterns, there's a certain level of randomness to it. Case in point, let's take multicam. Mostly multicam is various shapes of different bubble-like shapes, such as you see here. So you have a little flexibility and randomness to the design, which makes it easier, really, because you don't have to be predictable. Even digital, even though it seems more streamlined, it's actually still very random. As long as you keep the little squares pattern going, you can be as random and unpredictable as you want. Whereas something like tiger stripes is actually a little more difficult, because there is even though there's randomness to it, there's also a system to it. They're always in stripes. So you have to maintain a certain level of randomness, but at the same time similar to tiger stripes enough that it doesn't look like just this hop job of different patterns. Kind of same thing with this. It has that very simple shapes to them. They all look the same. So depending on what type of paint job you want to do, there are different ways to do it. Most of them require this. Some will require netting, but it all depends on what pattern you want to use. So we're going to paint this D-Boy's scar. There are some key places you want painted and taped up. You want to tape the trigger guard under the grip. Not everyone tapes up under the grip, but I find there's enough little screws and stuff right there that are important to get to that it's best not to paint over them. Mag weld, which there's a very easy way to tape up that, is to stick a magazine you'll be using in the gun in the mag weld, and in turn you'll have at least one magazine that matches the rest of the gun. And the final place is the end of the barrel. Now if you have various attachments on your gun, such as the rear sight and grip, you'll want to take those attachments off and paint them separately. it just makes painting the rest of the gun easier because you can paint those specific parts and not the rest of it. In this particular case, I will not be painting my rear sight, and I will be taping up my front sight. Now, it's your choice whether or not you want to tape up or paint over your sights. Generally speaking, I like to at least tape up the needle inside the sight at least, but it's really up to you. And then depending on what style gun you're using, you may want to cover up other parts. For example, on AKs, I find the slide, the bolt, sometimes you have to put a little tape there, especially if it like flops around a lot, because you don't want paint getting into the hop-up. But generally speaking, those are going to be the main areas you're going to tape up. So now with everything taped up, we're going to go ahead and put primer on the gun. Okay, now as you see, we put the primer on. A couple tips when you're doing the primer: whenever you're painting on, be sure you do in like little bits, like so, not like one constant stream, because that'll cause a lot of bubbles. And second, when you're looking to test whether or not it's dry, the best thing is take a little thing of grass, believe it or not, and just run it on a part of the gun that doesn't matter, like at the bottom of the magazine or something like that, and test that it's dry. Now, onto our first color. I'm going to put OD green down first. Now, most people say when you're painting, go from light to dark. I don't necessarily follow that rule when I'm painting camouflage, because one, it breaks up the pattern a little more, and two, I find when you're using like this to double coat paint, because it does a double layer, it tends to cover up any like see-through parts of whatever you're painting, and so you don't have to worry about going from light to dark or dark to light as much as you would with other paint jobs. But really it's up to you. For this particular pattern, I am starting with OD green. Okay, I've just added my first coat of paint other than primer. Now, when you put your first coat of colored paint on there, be sure you check everything for little spots that you missed. Like when it's dry, inspect the gun and ensure that you have all the spots all over the place covered. Now, it may vary depending upon what kind of paint job you're going for, but it's always good to double check and be sure you have all the spots you want covered before you continue. One technique you can use to speed up the drying of the paint is if you have a heater with you, you can actually put your gun and hold it over a heater, and it will make the paint dry more quickly, because you want to definitely be sure that the layer is dried before you continue. Now, the next part, we're going to put on our different coats. We're going to use this sort of really dark brown, army green, and sand, and we're also going to use our digital stencil. So, here is the end result. All I did was I took a stencil, put it over the gun, like so, took my can of spray paint and painted directly over what I wanted to paint. I always only do straight down, because if you do it at angles, it can get under the stencil. Now, you may want to like push it down, which is why I recommend the gloves, because sometimes you have to hold it down, especially if you're on like a curved object like that. You'll definitely want to hold it down. And then I do that like for one of each major parts of the gun. Like I do the stock, the grip, body, mag, front. I'll do that for each color. And then I'll come back and do little details like in the corners and things like that, just to make it more camouflaged. The only other thing I may do is I sometimes put a clear coat on the grip and whatever I'm holding up at front. Sometimes it'll be here, other times it'll be the grip. The reason I do this is these are the parts that wear out the most, like, because those are the parts you're grabbing. So they tend to get scratched and beat up more. Now, I don't usually do the entire gun clear coat, because it tends to make things a little shiny. So if you have a camouflage gun but then it's shiny, it's not necessarily camouflaged. So for that reason I don't do the entire gun unless it's a very complicated paint job or a very detailed paint job. Then I may paint the whole gun in that case. So, like I said, I use digital, but you can make your own, like multicam, you can use snakeskin, you can use whatever pattern you want. The principles apply. All the same principles apply. For example, if you're using snakeskin, the same principle, put it down, paint directly straight down, not at angles. And other than that, it really is just whatever pattern you want to use. And there's multiple different designs and patterns, so it's really up to your own personal preference and creativity as far as what you want to do. So now I've taken all the tape off, and you just want to go around and check all the functions like the trigger, safety, your magazine, and any other potential parts that are painted, stock in this case, and be sure everything is working fine. It should. You also want to test fire your gun afterwards. There really shouldn't be a problem on the internals, but you never know. If you have, say, a blowback, you'll definitely want to be very careful and check that thoroughly. Otherwise, your gun should be pretty much good to go at this point. So, thank you for watching this Killer Elite Airsoft video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And also be sure to check out our Facebook page. We have regular pictures of various guns I've painted, and all our most recent events and videos will be on the Facebook. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you.